Hi, I'm Pastor Lee, and welcome to Walking Through the Latter Days. Today is Thursday, July the 23rd, and I have the End Time Global Headline News for this week. And needless to say, like every week, there are so many headlines to read through, to choose from. I can't use them all, but I try to narrow them down to the ones who may have the biggest impact on our life. So let me go ahead and get started here. The first one, nuke deal could allow U.S. to protect Iran from Israel. If Israel is about to take military action against Iran's nuclear weapons infrastructure and related targets, will Obama use this language in the agreement to claim that the United States is required to Iran of the impending attack and provide Iran with sufficient info to thwart it? Well, my thoughts is that I believe that this is going to take place. I really believe that Israel will attack Iran. And if so, if my thoughts are right, we could very, very easily see the fulfillment of two major prophecies in the Bible. One is Psalm 83, and the other is Isaiah 17:1, which says, Damascus, Syria, will be left in a ruinous heap, and it'll happen overnight. Well, needless to say, the oldest inhabited city in the world will cease to exist and happen in one night. I believe that we are looking at nuclear war. And you got John Kerry over there in the Middle East and so many others in the past. They've been talking about peace, bringing peace, and bringing peace. Well, I do an awful lot of studying in the Bible in these last days, in the end times. And I don't see any peace whatsoever. I see anything but peace until the Antichrist comes and brings his artificial peace. But the Bible clearly speaks of many, many wars yet to come. And here's my second headline. Obama looks to ban Social Security recipients from owning guns. Obama wants to keep people from owning a gun if they collect Social Security benefits. Can you believe that? If you are an older person, a little older than I am, and if you own a gun, they don't want you to collect your benefits. They'll take your guns away from you. And that is if it's determined they're unable to manage their own affairs. This is according to the LA Times. Well, this headline, when I first read it, took me back to last year. Very interesting article about how the Social Security Administration was provided with many, many rounds of hollow point bullets. And I was thinking at the time, I said, now why would Social Security Department, why would they need to be armed with hollow tip bullets? Now, if you were to shoot someone with a hollow tip bullet, it doesn't put a little tiny hole in you. It puts the size of a basketball in that person. I think I see why they've been provided with these bullets. The third headline, Russia and Iran sign military cooperation agreement. This is very significant, and this truly is the early makings of some more Bible prophecy. Ezekiel 38:5, which I believe is coming into fulfillment, which is the battle of Gog and Magog, where it says, I will mobilize your troops, we're speaking of Russia, and cavalry, and make you a vast and mighty horde, all fully armed. Persia, which is modern-day Iran, Ethiopia and Libya will join you with all the weapons as they go against Israel. And each week, can't get around it, more earthquakes. There was a 4.4 quake centered in northern Oklahoma that rattles the state. Reports of being felt hundreds of miles away. And a 4.1 quake shakes San Francisco Bay Area. Well, this is one of the many signs that Jesus tells us to look for to show that his return is very near, even at the door. And moving on, Big Pharma is out to stop doctors practicing holistic medicine, which I say is the healthy way. Yet another doctor was just found murdered inside his home on the east coast of Florida. This makes 6 doctors to be found dead in just the last month. And this is from the same region of the country alone, just in this area. 5 other doctors are reported missing. These doctors, they don't prescribe prescriptions, and they don't believe in giving vaccines. And this takes away the money from Big Pharma. You got to understand that the agenda of the government is to have every person on at least 12 different prescriptions. You hear that? I speak the truth. You can look it up, do research. They want each individual United States to be on an average of 12 different prescriptions. And on top of that, for all to be vaccinated with poison. Yes, eugenics. They want to depopulate our country, the whole world. They want to bring it way, way down. And moving on, Lake Mead reaches another record low as water apocalypse nears for Las Vegas. A city living in denial. The severe droughts affecting the western United States are now approaching apocalyptic proportions as the water level of Lake Mead, America's largest capacity reservoir, has reached the lowest point in its history. Lake Mead, which is formed when the Hoover Dam was built, supplies water to around 40 million people, and is also a crucial agriculture resource in the region. Humans, livestock, and crops in Arizona, California, Nevada, even northern Mexico depend on water from Lake Mead and the Colorado River, which feeds it. They need it for power, drinking water, and irrigation. Major metropolitan areas, including Las Vegas and Phoenix, also rely heavily on Lake Mead's water. The water levels have just dropped as of April 30th of this year, below 1,080 feet, which is lower than last year's record level. But the scariest part is that the fact that last year's record low occurred in August. This year, the record was broken in April, and predictions are that the levels will continue to drop another 7 feet before the month of August. Well, if we look at the Bible, Matthew 24:7, Mark 13:8, Luke 21:11, all say that in these last days there will be famines. Well, I'll tell you what, the lack of water is a very quick way to cause a famine, because there will be no food to plant and then no food to eat. Well, bringing this in for landing, I got my last headline. I got this from All News Pipeline. It says, any day now, scientists issue dire new warning. Is God's most ominous weapon of judgment being unleashed upon America? Scientists with the USGS have issued a dire new warning to Californians and much of the West Coast after a 4.0 quake struck the San Francisco Bay Area on Tuesday, warning that a much larger quake is expected to strike the area any day now. Pastor David Wilkerson, who is now passed on, he gave a sermon on this exact headline way back in the year 1973. And this was what he said. This is a quote from him. God has appointed the instrument of killer earthquake as his most ominous weapon of judgment. This is him prophesying. It will strike suddenly and without warning. In less than 2 minutes on God's judgment clock, the death angel will claim the lives of multiplied thousands over a radius of hundreds of miles. Mountains will tremble and cities will fall. Well, you can watch this video on YouTube. Again, I'll say this is Pastor David Wilkerson. This is most likely to happen on the Hayward fault line, which stretches along the west coast just east, I believe, or just west of the I-5 corridor. And Paul Wilkerson states that, says, I believe God is going to judge the nation with 3 instruments of destruction. 1, earthquakes, 2, drought, and 3, financial disasters. We are now witnessing all 3 of these coming to pass. Well, that's wrapped it up for this week's headlines. I want to thank you for joining me, and joining me again next week as we continue to walk through the latter days. I'm Pastor Lee. Have a good week, and may God bless.